This is Charleston's retirement coach, Brandon Bowen.
Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for downloading. Most importantly, thanks for listening. This is Charleston's Retirement Coach Podcast with Brandon Bowen. It's all powered by Bowen Wealth. You can get more when you visit bowenwealth.com, and you can find that and all the information in the show notes. My name is Mark Owens. Now, let's get to the show. Brandon, this weekend, are you comfortable?
Yeah. I mean, get off me. What, I don't know.
I mean, are you comfortable?
So.
Are you in a good space right now? Are you comfortable? You got your comfortable pants on this? You know, you got your good sneakers on this? Sneakers. Jeez, how old am I?
Yeah. House shoes. Okay. I'm not that classy.
Well, you know what, Brandon? Let's get comfortable. All right. I want to talk about being comfortable, not just in life, but in retirement as well. Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, Shark Tank, he said recently that you need at least $5 million to retire. Now, recently he's come back out and he's done a little bit of a reversal, and he said, okay, you know what? Actually, with careful investing, you can retire on $500,000. That's a pretty big jump right there. But, you know, I guess my question to you is, in talking about being comfortable, how do you help us find that spot where we can be comfortable in our retirement?
Yeah, totally. There is a comfortable number. And I feel like he needs to add what are your expenses, right? Because it just depends on what is somebody's expenses. I've had people come in, we've built plans for them, and they've been happy as a clam. Mm-hmm. Like some of my most happy clients, you know, and all they have is like, you know, $350,000 because everything's paid off. Yeah. I mean, and they're just like, Brandon, we can't even spend all this income.
Good problem to have.
Kind of stuff. Yes, yeah. So it all depends on your expenses. Conversely is true is where people that are spending, you know, $10,000 and $12,000 a month, and we talk about the plan, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be tough, and they can't even find anywhere to cut expenses. It all depends on what your expenses are. So with Mr. Wonderful, I feel like when he first, you know, it's the Shark Tank, and I think he was out there feeling like he had to talk to the ultra wealthy to kind of, I don't know, maybe that's because it's his world. But now as he's been doing more of that roundtable discussions, I think he has, you know, started to talk more to the average American retiree. You know, he's kind of changed his tune, which is good. This is great. And I really like seeing this article you sent over to me because let me unpack it a little bit. So he says that, yes, you can do it with, you know, that lower amount of money, because he says that you have to have some fixed income products that return 5%. Is what he said, and then a balanced portfolio that returns 8 to 9%. And so when I saw those numbers, I said, hey, I like this. This is achievable for, you know, even well, a do-it-yourselfer maybe, but, you know, this is what we shoot for day to day for our clients, you know, with our portfolios that we build for people. And so especially that fixed income, I would say the hardest part for people is the fixed income space. You know, either you don't have really that much allocated to there, and if you do, it might just be some of these bond funds or mutual funds that are heavy in bonds that are just abysmal. Mm-hmm. You know, it's so hard in the lower risk space here to average 5% of maybe growth, much less dividends or income from these products. Okay. So that's what the value that I bring for our clients is, really being able to be your representative. And let's go out to the open markets and let's try to find and custom build whatever you prefer. If you don't like a certain product, sometimes people say, I don't like annuities. I'll say, fine, we won't do it. You know, we'll look at what does that leave us with? But I can go out there and shop everything that's available, which a lot of times people tell me my current girl or guy hasn't even mentioned this kind of stuff. They just know that they're getting the same old tired portfolio that they've had for the past 10, 20, 30 years. So yes, so here's what we do is you've got to start thinking, let me give you a kind of a mental picture of what you can take a look at your portfolio. If you don't think you've got this going on, bring it in. You know, I can help you look at it. So think of two buckets. Okay. I want to see two buckets in here, just like Mr. Wonderful said. You're fixing. So one bucket is purposed for income, and the other bucket is purposed for growth. You might see where certain product says this is growth and income, and I say doesn't exist. If it tries to do both, it's usually pretty poor at both. And so that's why I like to custom build you a portfolio that is excellent at income and then potentially excellent at growth. Okay. So that's what you want to do. Think of separate buckets here. And so most people only have a few fixed income positions, and I would say they're only paying about 2 to 3%. That's why I talked about those laughable bond funds. Then if you've got like AGG or BOND or Vanguard's bond fund and all, I mean, yes, it might be a lower expense ratio, but you're only averaging about a 1% rate of return each year. And you're probably paying a 1 to 1.5%, maybe even 2% advisor fee. The advisor fee you're paying is eating up any potential growth you might have. And then it's only paying like maybe a 2 or 3% dividend in there for you.
I hate to interrupt you, Brandon, but a lot of people don't realize sometimes how much they're paying in these advisor fees.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You don't, because you've got that relationship with them.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't do that to me. They wouldn't be putting me in, these American funds that have, maybe a 1 to 1.5% expense ratio, and then they're charging another 1% advisor fee. They wouldn't do that to me. I hear that. I hear it. And I'm like, hey, you guys need to have a come to Jesus meeting. You guys need to go talk about stuff and get real.
And get uncomfortable, if you will.
Yes. Yeah. That's something that I love to do. When people come in, I believe you deserve transparency. I talk about who's paying me, how much they're paying me, where it's coming from, right? I mean, and again, with this 2-bucket approach, with our income focused money, a lot of times that's why I like to use some of those no fee annuities over there, because I don't charge my fee on that stuff, because, it's built for income. It's not going to grow like, equities might potentially grow. So if we've got a bucket that's, it's not really going to grow, then you've got to watch those fees. You got to watch where it's leaking money, and you got to really tighten it up, watertight, so it's not being inefficient and that you're getting the most income possible. That growth bucket that I talked about, that's, really where we go to the stock market. And that's arguably, I've seen people come in and they're doing pretty good just because the market's been pretty good, right? We've been on maybe a 12, 13-year bull market here. Yes, there's been some scary moments like the sell-off with COVID. And then of late here, of course, with NVIDIA. We could be right on the verge of this AI and this tech bubble popping. So your stock market, you've got to be watching that stuff there and have that low-cost active management, looking at that portfolio. And how I like to describe that is like a lifeguard on duty versus swimming at your own risk. It's like, let's say you're out there in the ocean. That's one thing I don't like about our ocean. It's like you can't even see what's in the water. Like, are there sharks nearby?
Right.
There probably
and
are.
Sometimes you'll see those drone videos.
Oh my gosh!
And it'll just be like, hey, this family didn't know that they were surrounded by a school of sharks.
And one guy's just paddling along, and he's just enjoying. And there's like an orca up underneath him, and that's 15 feet. So I am a lifeguard on duty to help you watch out for these, for these sharks and these potential, crashes in the market. And so, we'll do our best with our growth bucket. So here's a quick story. So I've got a client, he gave me $5 million. Okay. They had saved well. He came in and he was like, we put the plan together, and we were talking about, he even asked he said, hey, do you have anything for like crypto, blockchain? And I said, yes, we've got a portfolio for that. And so he said, okay, I want some of that. And he goes, and what about some of the NVIDIA and the tech and, the emerging markets, the disruptive technology? He said, I want some of that too. And I said, okay, we've got both of those. But what we only did, Mark, was only a $50,000 allocation into each one of those sectors. Okay. Out of 5 million. Okay. And so we did this last week here just in time for this NVIDIA drop. Okay. So I'm like going, oh my gosh, I know that we just invested him, and that, there's those 50,000 right there. Yes, it's down right now, but we only did $50,000 out of 5 million. So what I would call this is proper diversification. And so that's a bucket there that, he's got some of those allocations. Yes, it's down a little bit, but that's not, 50% of his portfolio, right? If you listening, I bet you've probably got a lot of exposure, especially if you're doing S&P 500, because NVIDIA is huge. It is like the biggest company out there. And a lot of this AI that has driven Google, Amazon, Apple, all these things, that's what we've got to watch, those allocations. And that's the expertise that we can bring alongside to your growth bucket. All of this, what we're talking about here, I would say that it's all wrapped up in my retirement game plan. It's when we sit down, you come in, you bring all of your statements, everything that you've done, and I will give you a non-emotional report and review of what you're holding. And it's not my opinion, it's from Morningstar. Okay, so we'll type in all those holdings. If you got bonds, ETFs, mutual funds, stocks, whatever, we'll type all that in there. Morningstar will then give us tons of information, make your head spin. A lot of information, but I'll pull out what's important. We'll look at how much exposure you're walking around with. And then we'll look at, okay, what do you have in your lower risk fixed income bucket? We'll kind of separate that, and we'll look at, okay, is that the best of what's available? And then we'll talk about your at-risk money. Take a look at that, see, your fees, all of that stuff. We'll see if you're overlapping. We call this correlation, okay, in our report, because sometimes people will come in with 12 to 15 mutual funds or ETFs, but they're all holding the same stuff, right? They're all holding similar stocks. And so, when you have a bad run with the AI sector or whatever, it's going to affect all of them, okay? So we'll take a look at, how you're allocated. And this retirement game plan really helps you take a look at, okay, my fixed income, how do we set this thing up for achieving, just like he said, maybe a 5% return on our fixed income, maybe 8 to 9% on our growth sector there, so that you can retire with what you've saved. So that's what this retirement game plan provides for you. So if you've saved $500,000 or more and know that you do not have this retirement game plan, you want a second opinion on what you're doing, pick up the phone, call our office. Tanya is standing by right now, 843-890-2400. Again, 843-890-2400. Just call that number, shoot a text maybe to Tanya, and you can say game plan. Just text the word game plan and we'll know exactly what you're wanting.
Hey, what's your take on AI and how it's really affecting the industry right now? Is it something that you're getting prepared for every day, or are you kind of sitting back and watching? Because it's here to stay and it's only going to get bigger. But how is it affecting, the day-to-day strategies and portfolios for retirees and pre-retirees?
Yeah, so we've got to watch it. We know that it's very similar, of course, to the .com back in 2000, right? .com, internet changed how we did everything, right? It changed the world, but there was a .com crash. For those 3 years, the S&P went down about 35% from peak to valley. We believe there is an AI bubble. It might be popping now or at some point where all these AI stocks, they're so overvalued. They've got to have a sell-off. NVIDIA had that 18% sell-off. They sold more than most companies are even worth. So we think there is an AI bubble, but AI is here to stay. Okay, so it's affecting it affects my business, how I manage mine and how we become more efficient for you, for your benefit, in your industry. If you're still working, it's affecting everywhere, everyone.
Do you have a lot of people giving you a call and just asking questions about AI, about crypto? You always say, listen, we're no judgment zone. Don't feel like there's any bad questions because we're here to benefit you and the community. Do you find more people are starting to ask more and more about, hey, man, what's up with this AI thing?
Yeah. And we have it. We've got a way to allocate towards that thing. But, what you'll hear me ask is okay, how much are you talking? And is this money that you can leave alone for 5 years?
Okay.
Almost like Vegas money.
Yeah.
Is it something that, say we put it in and we just have awful timing and it drops 75%. That's what happened with the Sam Bankman-Fried. It went down like 75% with FTX stuff.
Right.
And then, but by a year later, it was back to an all-time high.
A couple of minutes ago, you were talking about the power of income and growth. I want to flip that a little bit and talk about protection and growth, because there was a Global Atlantic survey that talked to adults between the ages of 55 and 75. More than 60% would rather protect their existing savings than seek growth on their wealth. So they'd rather protect than grow. Is this a common conversation, and is there a balance?
It totally, it is a conversation that I talk about every time because I help you listen to your feelings. I think people continue to take the risk just because they think they've got to. That's what they've always done, right? For the past 20, 30 years, I've always taken the risk here, and now I'm retiring, but I guess I got to keep doing the same thing. But that's why your number one concern is, running out of money in a market crash. 1 and 2, those are, I bet you that's your biggest concern there, because that, gosh, you remember 2008. Luckily, you weren't at this point here nearing or in retirement. So you remember those big, deep sell-offs there and how it took years for the markets to recover. Well, you weren't retired then, but now you are retired, or you're about to. Okay. And so you're sitting there thinking we're still doing the same old thing. So I want to ask you a question, you listening. Can you remember a time with your portfolio where, I can't think of a better way to describe it, but can you remember a big switch I'm thinking maybe where your advisor, you sat down with them, you're coming near retirement or you just retired and they said, okay, we've got to make some big switches, some big transitions here in your portfolio and kind of leave that growth focused strategy. And we've got to switch to more income driven, more defensive investments. Can you remember a major transition in your portfolio? If you're like, you know what, I'm lucky to even be able to get a hold of my advisor. You know,
Right.
I've been handed off 4 times in the past 2 years to new people and whatever. I hear all of that. So, so I would venture to say that no, that your portfolio has not made the big transition to a more income driven. Let me describe what I think you would agree with. I think, let me describe you because like I was saying, a lot of people still take that risk that Mark, what you were just talking about, but they would prefer a smoother ride. So, before the news here, they do the Powerball. So you got think of the ping pong balls. Okay. We got ping pong balls here. There's 20 of them. And so I've got 2 scenarios, right? 2 different Powerballs here that you're going to play. This first one, the first Powerball jackpot. Tell me if you would enter this jackpot.
Okay.
It's where you've got 20 ping pong balls, all with numbers ranging on your annual returns from your portfolio. Would you rather, and let's also assume you've got $1 million saved up in your 401k, IRA, whatever. So you got $1 million and we must pull out $50,000 a year, no matter what kind of return we get. So we have to have that for our standard of living. That's going to go along with our Social Security, painting a hypothetical picture, but we have to pull out $50,000 a year no matter what kind of return we get from the stock market.
Okay.
So of the 20 ping pong balls, let's say there's 3 or 4 of them that have a return of over 20%. Okay. There's 3 to 4 balls that are in there bouncing around like that. Then there's probably 10 balls that have, a nice single digit return.
Okay.
But then there's about 6 or 7 of them that have losses between negative 10% and negative 40%.
Now we're gambling, Brandon.
This is like, okay, so those are bouncing around too. Okay. So again, 6 or 7, of those 20 have massive losses.
But 3 or
Okay.
4 have potentially 20%.
Yes. But we don't know. Okay. So every year it's like, okay, hit the valve and boom, here comes a ball. Right. And so, okay, our $1 million is going to do whatever that ball says. And we've got to pull out 50,000 right after that. Okay. Let's say the other Powerball jackpot is one where there are 20 ping pong balls in there and all 20 ping pong balls have a number between 4 and 6% return. Between 4 and 6, either 4, 5, or 6.
Okay. I know what I'm doing.
And you're retiring and you have to pull out 5% of your portfolio or $50,000. Which Powerball jackpot would you enter, Mark?
It almost feels a little bit less Vegas-y to go with the 20 balls all ranging between 4 and 6%.
Yes, yes. You listening, if you've saved well, if you've got $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, why the heck would you play the first Powerball?
Yeah.
You've already won the game. All you need is 4 or 5 or 6% return. You're going to be pulling out, say, 5%. The goal is to maybe pull out some of your winnings, some of your interest that you've made. You've got guardrails up now, and you take away those big ups and those huge downs. That what I'm describing is the sequence of return risk, and that is the order in which we make or lose money. And let's say, the worst scenario here is, let's say you go to retire and you pull one of those red negative 30%.
Yeah.
And now you're down to $600,000 and you pull out $50,000 for income. Now you're down to $550. You're in free fall. Your portfolio is in a nosedive and you will probably run out of money. There's just no reason to keep taking that risk. Taking the risk, the Vegas lifestyle, that's for your kids to do. That's, you're done with, the fast living, fast cars, kind of living here with this portfolio. I say, I want you to have fun in retirement, but let's make this portfolio just boring.
Let's grow.
Yes.
Let's stop going to Vegas. Now
Yes.
let's focus on trying to get that ping pong ball that's got 4 to 6%.
That's right. Yeah. And so then it's like, okay, now we need to draw another number, but let's say, I don't care what the number is because it's going to be between 4 and 6. So just let me know. I'm traveling to Europe right now.
Yeah.
You don't even care what number comes out because it's going to be something nice. And hey, I can digest that. Right. And so what it does, your stress, your worry moves from, okay, my portfolio and what's the market doing? And, all these what ifs, and you're able to sleep 8 hours a night. You're able to plan these trips. You're able to spend with confidence. all because you made the big switch. And that's what I'm talking about is your portfolio needs to have the big switch where we take a look at. Now, we're still going to have some positions in there that, yes, still pursue growth, but that's with money that we know because of our plan, we don't need to touch this money for at least 5 years, maybe 7 years from now. It might be in your Roth IRAs, because it's money you might not ever even touch. Mm-hmm. So yes, let's keep that money going to Vegas and let's try to, time it right. And when the markets get real choppy, let's pull back a little bit. Let's, have some active management there. But the money that you need for income and peace of mind and confidence, well, that, we can build that beautifully. That's after this big switch. So this is an income driven retirement plan. And that's what I do. I would say that is the difference. If you might be thinking, well, Brandon, what's the difference in you and my person? Like my person, I've been with them for a long time. Why should I pick up the phone? Why should I come in and see you? And I would say it's because I focus in this area here of helping you make that big switch with your portfolio and making it more of an income driven, where we put guardrails up on your money. It's like you go bowling and they pop those bumpers up, for the kids.
What are you talking about, kids?
It's for Mark, for you.
Come on now. I know my
for you when you go bowling. Yeah. It's amazing. You can bowl 200 when you put the bumpers up, right?
Amazing.
You just chunk the ball and you're going to knock some pins over.
Get some of them down at least.
I could throw it granny style. I'm gonna bowl 200 here because you put up guardrails.
By the way, I learned the hard way. You can't do that in the bowling leagues.
They don't
Kicked out of the league on Thursday nights. Yes. Just throwing it out there. Yes. Hey, Brandon, a couple of minutes ago, you were talking about, having these trips, these moments, these experiences, and we can't ignore it. Big game coming up in about a week. What if somebody comes to you and they say, Brandon, I want to have this big experience. I want to take a trip to New Orleans. I want to go see the Eagles and the Chiefs. Now, tickets, did you see the secondary market?
No. How much?
If you want to go to Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, go see the Eagles and the Chiefs, just to sit up in the nosebleeds, it's going to cost you $6,500 a ticket. And that's for the top. Hotels are going for over these 2-star hotels is, normally $65 on a Tuesday.
We call it sus motel.
Now they're going for over $1,000 a night. I saw online they're pre-selling parking passes blocks away, not even like right up front next to the front door. We're talking blocks away from the Superdome. Those are going for over $300 a piece for parking.
Oh my
Brandon,
gosh.
somebody gives you a call this week and says, I got to make it happen. Can you build, we were talking buckets a little bit earlier, like that experience bucket or that last minute spur of the moment, let's be spontaneous without all that damaging a plan?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I believe that discipline leads to freedom. Okay. If we are disciplined, if we have your plan in place and we've allocated for this, maybe we call it fun money or bucket list trips, or whatever it might be, traveling or Super Bowl. I feel like there's nobody doing bucket lists because both of these teams, it's kind of like Georgia and Alabama. Like, who cares? You guys go every year.
Chiefs fan are like, I'll go
Chiefs
next year.
Chiefs like, I don't know, last year,
a couple of
I'll just
times.
go next year. The refs make sure that we go.
There it is.
And then the Eagles, but if it was Washington, there'd be some major bucket listers and
Lions
Bills.
fans,
maybe
they would have filled up.
Lions, oh gosh, yes. So, but yes, to answer your question, I love that because I know that you're spending with confidence, and so we just allocate it there. We look at of our emergency fund that we've had liquid at the bank, can we swing this? That would be probably 15 to 20,000 because you got flights. You didn't even talk about that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So can we do that? Is it something maybe you're taking your dad who's 80 years old, 90 years old? It's something that like, okay, it's going to be a core memory. Then I'm all about that kind of stuff. But but the plan has to already be in place. Discipline leads to having that freedom to be able to take those trips.
I love that. Real quick, I booked a trip later this summer. I'm going out to Vegas. We've been talking about Vegas, but I'm a big country music fan. Kenny Chesney's playing out at the Sphere.
Yes,
super excited.
Residency.
It is so expensive to fly from the East Coast over to Vegas. So I cashed in a bunch of our American Express points. My fatal flaw is I failed to tell my wife I was doing that.
Okay.
She saw the statement. She's like, where did all of our points go? We were saving those up for an anniversary trip next year.
Does she like him?
Nope.
Oh, Mark.
And I'm doing this trip with me and a buddy of mine, and she's not even coming with me.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So guess who's about to drop about $2,000 to get Coldplay tickets to make my wife happy?
Yep.
This guy.
Actually, honey, I was still like fine tuning the details for your surprise.
See, and you ruined it. So I hope you're happy now, honey. So this is a conversation I might need your help with budgeting a little bit later there, Brandon.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to Charleston's Retirement Coach Podcast with Brandon Bowen. To learn more, visit bowenwealth.com and join Brandon for his radio show, Charleston's Retirement Coach, Saturdays at 11 a.m. on 94.3 WSC.
Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if J. Brandon Bowen is licensed in your state, please call 843-203-2030. J. Brandon Bowen is an investment advisor representative of Bowen Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. J. Brandon Bowen is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Bowen Wealth, LLC, insurance licensed in South Carolina. Market Guard is a registered investment advisor with the SEC and provides model portfolios only to Impact Partnership Wealth. Market Guard makes no implied warranties or representations and is not liable for any data presented.